Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have yet another Snowflake review for you. This time in its kind of their newest release and also the most affordable Snowflake dial Seiko has put out. But before that, let's also get into a little bit of the history of Seiko. They were founded back in 1881. They are Japanese in origin and now have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to extremely high end. So really cool. And this is actually on the more entry level side, not super entry level. Like, I mean, they have stuff that's literally under $100. But this definitely is on the more attainable side, especially when compared to, you know, the recent Snowflake dial that I reviewed, which the SJE 073, which, you know, comes out to something like $2,200. You know, and then depending on where you buy it, you might pay more, you might pay less. I was very fortunate and paid less, but when I was still pretty delighted to find out that they actually released this model, which I think is a real looker as well. And actually, to me, has probably the more accurate dial to the Grand Seiko Snowflake pattern that you'll find on the very popular spring drive model. So with that being said, of course, some key common characteristics and design language for this type of watch. I would probably consider this an everyday watch. I wouldn't call it really a dress watch, although it can be dressed up. It can also, of course, be dressed down. But to me, what really makes this, you know, kind of a versatile everyday watch, I would say is more so the scale. Because of the size, it really is something that I couldn't say would be dedicated, you know, to being a specific dress watch for more formal occasions. It definitely has the size and presence to be worn just, you know, very casually as well. Now, this particular model is the SRPC97J1, or in Japan, it's also sold as the Sari SARY 103. These are limited to 7,000 pieces, which isn't too bad. So they're still pretty attainable out there. You can find them versus the other one that I, you know, showed you guys, which was limited to like 1881. This one definitely has a little bit more. So although it is kind of a limited edition, it's not really that limited. It's just kind of a limited run, I guess you could say. And then there's also, of course, tons of different awesome limited cocktail watches, and this is kind of the Snowflake dial on a cocktail frame there. So you know, this is definitely their most affordable kind of baby Grand Seiko Snowflake yet. This particular dial translates as the winter scene dial, and in Japanese I can't pronounce that, so I'm not even going to try. Okay, let's try Fuyugeshiki. Okay, probably pretty bad. And I lived in Japan for about 2-3 years when I was in the Marine Corps, so that's I'm sorry for that, guys. But let's go ahead and get this piece in hand and take okay, so first thing you guys will notice is that this isn't on the factory strap. This is actually on a BNR band strap there. Really nice. I thought that the tones were really great and super versatile. I actually chose this particular strap so I could actually wear it very casually with some similarly colored shorts. So I have been wearing this one very casual. And then nice thing also, because this does have the more dramatic taper down to 60 millimeters, I was able to put on this awesome Grand Seiko buckle there. Of course, this buckle was not cheap. It was like $100 for the buckle. But the nice thing is, to me, it really makes the watch feel a little bit more complete. And, you know, I do prefer that kind of OEM plus style versus being something that's just like super aftermarket looking. So I think this has a nice blend and also is just super versatile. So really happy about that. But as you can see, let's go ahead and get you in on that dial. Let's get you in on the dial. Here we go. Look at the texture. Pretty outstanding. It's amazing what they're able to do with dial. Seiko has just infinitely impressed me with that. Of course, some of the mild specs about this. This is a 40.5 millimeter diameter with an 11.8 millimeter height, which does include that big domed hardlex there. It is 47 lug to lug, so it actually is quite short, and then also does have turn down lugs as well, so it does wear really well on the wrist, although it is a little bit larger than you would probably like in most cases for this type of watch. Being up more on the dressy side. This is just completely polished all the way around, as you can see. Really nicely done as far as the polish goes. Signed crown, non-screw down. This box domed hardlex is pretty gorgeous though. So you can see really nice and clear. And one of the things that you can get from a mineral crystal versus a sapphire is the clarity there at angle. As you can see, there's no milkiness whatsoever. It's just almost too clear. The camera might, on the little viewfinder, the little screen I'm looking at, it's hard for me to even see that crystal. So quite impressive, because that thing just is pure butter. Gorgeous. And then you get that nice little distortion there on the edges, which adds some nice visual play, although this dial has tons of visual interest already, as you can see. If the camera can capture that, there's just so much going on. This thing is just sparkling, just glinting away quite gorgeously. Very, very, very nice. So really beautifully done. Sorry for all the drool there, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this even on the big screen as well. The movement, of course, is a 4R35, which is a step down from the 6R family, and then really it just doesn't have that Sprawn hairspring, so then it actually has a shorter power reserve, but it still is hacking hand windable and all that. Pretty much similar finishing. The rotor is gold versus having the standard kind of metal one with the little perlage on there, or I should say Tokyo striping. So pretty standard. And then you do have all the text on the back of that display, and there's of course, just like any other Seiko cocktail time, it does have the applied indices there, no lume, everything's very reflective. Then you do have the little seconds or minute seconds and split seconds track that goes all the way around, which is nice. It adds a little bit of a sporty feel to it, but not having the chapter ring keeps it a little bit dressy. Man, I can look at that dial. Ooh, that thing looks killer. Anyways, so probably what a lot of you are thinking when you heard this thing was coming out, right? Oh, one thing is I don't have this on bracelet, and the reason is I don't like the bracelet. I do have the box, which I was super impressed with. Look at this box. This is insane. It has the little plaque on it, fully wrapped in like the vinyl, Presage Limited, Seiko. Very cool. And then it still has little hang tag and everything. It's the very unimpressive bracelet with hollow end links, and then even like the folding, like, it's not great. So that's, for me, it's kind of a throwaway bracelet. I'll just keep it in case I ever sell it or anything like that. But I'm sure a lot of you were thinking when this came out is, should I get this now over a Sarks 55, which is here, this beautiful titanium number, as you can see. Scale wise, pretty close, but the main trade-off is going to be here. You're going to get this outstanding bracelet, and the case definitely has more of those real, kind of Grand Seiko-esque features to it, as far as the shape of the case. This really, you could not even have the dial here, and it doesn't even have to be a Snowflake dial. You see this this basic silhouette, and you're going to be thinking that this is a Grand Seiko watch because of the style. I'm not saying that the quality is the same or anything like that, but that's pretty much where you're going to see this. And as you can see, dial wise, quite different. Here you have that kind of more frosted dial, Looks almost like the Japanese washi paper as far as the little particles and whatnot, the way that they play with the light. Still a beautiful dial. Really nice. Everything, of course, indices all very highly polished. So that's one trade-off. So if you just want this dial, if you just like, oh, I would love this crazy, you know, sick Snowflake dial, then yeah, this is all you really need. And you can get it for in between like $400 to $500. So that is amazing. And then you have this bad boy, and you know, it's in the $1,000 to $800 and $850-ish range. You're getting titanium now too, so it's just, you know, it's a special type of metal. And it's a really cool look. So if you want to get that bracelet and everything, and the case, you want, you know, the whole shebang. You don't want just a really finely finished dial. You want to get the whole watch, and you know, everything is really snazzy and up to that level here. Then yeah, go for this instead. And of course, if you like bracelets, that's definitely the way to go. And if you're very lucky, let me pull my little SJE into the frame here so you guys can take a look in comparison. And if you can find one of these and you can afford it, definitely get the SJE, because this thing screams probably Seiko the loudest. This case shape, I mean, this thing is just, again, you black out the dial, you ask what type of watch this is, somebody will think it's a Grand Seiko. Just the lines, that polyhedral shape there. Look at the chamfers, and then with the thinner case, you know, setup, it actually, I think it even puts more emphasis on the kind of older, you know, design cues from the original Grand Seikos there. And then as you can see, this dial a little bit deeper than the Sark's dial as far as that texture, a little bit more contrast, but it's very similar. I'd say it's almost just like a nicer version of that dial. So it's just a nicer iteration of it. Similar texturing and whatnot. Just a little bit more detail to it. And then comparison here. Really nice. So you're gonna get something, of course, this doesn't really look like the Grand Seiko Snowflake dial. This is kind of its own new thing. Same thing with the Sarks, has more of that frosty dial. Then here you're gonna get something that actually is a pretty close take on the patterning. It's just not quite as finely done and whatnot. It definitely is the Presage version of that gorgeous dial, but it's doing a lot, and it's really quite special. So let's go ahead and get this on the wrist. Okay, as you can see on my 7 1/4 inch wrist, this thing definitely wears really well. Get a little bit more arm in it. Probably is gonna look a little bit more well balanced. Get a little bit closer, it's gonna look huge. That's just the nature of wrist shots and wristies when it's up close. And then of course there's a little bit of distortion, but as you can see on the wrist, where it's just like any other cocktail, there's tons of reviews on these. People love these watches. They're very closely kind of related to, I'd say, the Bambino, if you're looking for kind of a really cool dress watch that's versatile, that you could wear every day. Those are kind of the choices. The nice thing about the cocktails are, of course, that they do have a 20mm lug width, which helps with straps. And as you can see, that gorgeous Grand Seiko clasp there, that buckle just completes the look. Feels a little bit more luxurious, a little bit more, you know, stepped up to match that gorgeous dial. But, you know, the funny thing is, I find myself when it comes to wearing this, I actually don't, it's not in competition with any of my other Snowflake dials. The watch that it comes into most competition with is actually my Mito, my little Mito 39mm Heritage. Now, they are very similar as far as size goes. They're probably only off from each other as far as size by less than a millimeter, probably half of a millimeter difference there. But this one is quite thin at under 7mm thick. And then we have much thicker watch here, but honestly, in you know, practical terms, you're not gonna quite, I mean, this is just overly thin, but the eye isn't gonna catch the difference in the thickness feeling as much as the wrist does when this thing just lays super flat. But this one also has a nice little tone dial to it. As you can see, it has that great eggshell kind of finish, really nicely done. Of course, super thin, pretty much the thinnest automatic watch that you can buy, I'd say, that isn't super crazy high end. Let me wipe a little bit of the sweat off of this bad boy. These studio lights do get pretty hot in here, so if you ever wonder why things get smudged and I have to wear gloves all the time, that's exactly why. As you can see, you know, much more to look at as far as the finishing goes here. This definitely is more comparable to that SJE. Oh, and again, B&R bands, shout out. Great straps there. I've done a couple of reviews on those. But, you know, here's the standard buckle that it comes with. Nothing wrong with it at all if you guys are considering picking one of these up. Really nicely done still. Again, I didn't change it out because it was lacking. I more so did it to kind of complete the whole Seiko look and feel to it. But yeah, I find that this is really the watch that I end up competing with as far as what this is taking up time in the rotation for. And the nice thing about this piece here, and pretty much the cocktail line in general, even apart from the special edition here, is that it's just a little bit more versatile because it's a little thicker. So I could put this, like, let's say on a mesh or even a straight endling bracelet, and it would actually still flow pretty cool and have kind of a nice little vintage vibe to it. Here, because of like the ultra thinness, it's gonna be really hard to find something that's gonna fit this well besides a strap. I wouldn't want to put this on a mesh or anything. It'd be too thick, and you know, I think just because of the stark nature of it, you can only add so much more texture to this piece. They do have it on a bracelet, of course, which is head and shoulders above better than the one that comes on the cocktail. But the you know, but this of course is more expensive as well. So again, if you like or you own one of these, I'd say that's pretty much going to be where you're going to fight with when it comes to what you're wearing. But on the wrist, this thing wears great, just like any other of the cocktail videos. And you can see beautiful taper there from 20 down to 16. I think on paper you think, oh, 16, that's kind of like a woman's thickness there for a strap, but you know, it's the underneath, so it just adds more flexibility and everything. So really nice, wears well. Let's go ahead and get some low light transition going. Let's go ahead and hit the lights. And then again, of course, there's no lume on this watch, but what it does have, the nice thing is this beautiful textured dial, so you can still see the light transition off of it. There's not much really to see on that case because of the fact that it's just fully polished. But look at that dial. You can see some of the depth kind of come out of it. Really beautifully done. Look at that. Now that is something you can definitely get lost in. Just super nice. As you can see, all the little layers, all the little details, the way the light just breaks onto it. It's kind of this flat thing in the darkness, and bam, it almost has kind of a, reminds me a little bit of the moon. But of course it's supposed to look like freshly fallen snow. Really nice, quite gorgeous. Look at when it really lights up there. You can see so much in there. You know, actually while we're here, let's go ahead and get a look at that buckle. Ooh, you can even get some low light transition on that. As you can see, ooh, gorgeous. Look at that high polish. This thing, even in the dark, it's like glowing. You can still see the outline of it. Everything's gone, but you can still see the buckle. It literally is mirror polished so bright that it straight up looks like it's glowing. Bam. Look at that. Quite gorgeous. Little buckle love there for the Grand Seiko buckle. Back into the main shot. Little peak of light there. Gorgeous. Okay, guys. So for this piece, I'm loving it. I'm not gonna lie to you. And then best part about it is because it is so much more affordable. It actually, to me, almost makes it kind of a more fun wear. Although it is limited, it's not super limited. I definitely wear it with way more comfort than I wear my SJE, because that's one of the more expensive watches I've ever bought. As far as wearing it against, you know, my Sarks 055, of course the Sarks is titanium. I love it on that bracelet, so I'm a little bit scared also at the same time when I wear it on that bracelet. That if it gets nicked up or anything like that, then I'm just going to be hugely bummed. So, this thing is really great. It definitely has a nice modern feel on the wrist. Super diverse, super versatile because of the size. You know, to me, it's not quite oversized. It is larger. It's not a dedicated dress watch. If it was, then, you know, it could, in that 35 to 37 range, as long as it wasn't too thick, because then that, to me, that almost, if it's smaller but thicker, it almost does make it feel a little bit more like a female watch, a woman's watch. If it's nice and flat though, it's still, I think it'll wear in a way that disperses the weight, where it feels a little bit more purposeful. And feels to me, I don't know, a little bit more masculine. But to me, the cocktail line isn't oversized. You know, I think it's, you know, for what it's trying to be as far as being a versatile kind of everyday dressy-ish watch that you can dress up and dress down, you know, similar idea to the Bambino. From Orient, definitely. There's the cool thing about this particular dial, there's actually two other variants. You can get it in a smaller woman's size, or you can also get the same one, but it has just a little bit slightly different movement. That's going to have like a power reserve indicator on it, and then like the date is instead of it being a disc there in the window, it's just going to be a little pointer on a subdial. So that's also a cool variant. Definitely adds a little bit visual interest if you're looking for that. If you're somebody who's all about complications, that's definitely something you might want to look into. And then of course the whole cocktail line, there's tons of different variations. You know, they're just coming out with so many different ones. It's such a great line. But although they've always interested me, the bracelets kind of kept me away, but I've always loved the look of the dials. I've actually hoped that Seiko will kind of take those dials and start dispersing them along other watches that have, you know, just a little bit higher up in the food chain. So here they kind of did the opposite, and they took a watch dial from way high up in the food chain and really put it here where it's extremely accessible and attainable, which is really great. Comparable models, of course, there's all these more expensive Snowflake style dials. Even if you go like to Citizen and they have some very kind of frosted and snowflake and washi paper style dials, those are hugely expensive, even more expensive than the Seiko variants, and then those are like quartz. So those are out there as well. So if you want this type of dial, this is going to be like the best deal for you if you just know you're never going to spend $1,000 or more on a watch. This is great at around $400 to $500. I think it's well worth it in the 500 range if that's all you can find it at, and you know, depending on where you are locally, it might just be more expensive. But if you can get it cheaper, you know, in the 400, maybe in the maybe 350-ish range, you know, the only thing that makes it tough to get a great deal on these is the fact that the standard cocktail times are so popular, and then there's so many variations. It's gonna be pretty hard to probably bargain somebody down when there's this really limited model. So I'm not sure how low you can go with these, but yeah, I think in that 400 range, totally worth it. If you just are captivated by this style of dial and you've always wanted one, but you're just not interested in spending that much for a Grand Seiko or for a Sarks or an SJE, definitely give this one a look. The bottom line, I'd say this is definitely the most affordable and kind of accurate Snowflake dial yet, which is really cool. And it's packaged in an already popular and collectible cocktail time collection. I mean, there's guys, if you go on, you know, on the forums and the Facebook groups, on, you know, and Instagram, you're gonna find guys with multiple cocktail times because they're just such a cool You know, they're just a really cool watch, and there's just a little story to them, and it's just I don't know, it's like they have a really cool vibe. You know, a lot of them are based on these different drinks. Well, you know, technically they all are in a way. These different drinks and kind of this mixology thing. So I think there's something that's kind of cool about that. And then, you know, it almost gives you a place for the watch. As far as the appropriate time to wear it is, if you're going to go out for a drink, this could be the watch for you. And I think on this strap, it really makes it, you know, infinitely versatile. If you're going to wear some khakis or something like that, perfect. Or you're going to match some like taupe brown shoes that are a little bit dressier, that you could definitely do that too. So this, you know, of course, also a strap beast at 20 millimeters. You can put, if you look at my Instagram, you'll see this on, you know, different straps as well. It looks great on a darker blue strap. I think it looks great, and you could also look great on a black alligator. I think would definitely give it, you know, kind of more of that Grand Seiko kind of vibe with the white dial, blued seconds hand, and then kind of black crocodile leather. So that combination definitely feels very Seiko. And then I think for this one, it really just, I don't know, I think the strap really wakes it up. Let me know what you guys think as far as my strap selection goes. If you liked the video, please hit like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.